How do I look?
You look great. That color's really good on you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The deep blue.
I dig it. I like our color combination together. I think we have a nice...
Yeah, we're very patriotic.
Patriotic vibe going.
America.
We're fixing to go to Piggly Wiggly.
That's right. Oh my God, you know what Piggly Wiggly is?
Yes, I do know.
Oh my God, I didn't know any. My husband thought I was making it up.
No, Piggly Wiggly, like there's still a Piggly Wiggly like around the corner from me.
Oh my God, there was a Piggly Wiggly like there. I mean, it turned into a bingo house near my place, but then there's still one in Denton, Texas, where my sister lives.
I love that. Jay, you should be recording because this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, before we get started, I want to introduce the podcast. My name is Vern Trumbull, Senior Director of Content and Communication here at Wonderkent, and I am joined by Miss Wende Zomnir.
Oh my God, you said it right. Zomnir.
Zomnir,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Good. I was nervous before I got...
I know. It's a tricky name because there's the M and the N together, and it kind of throws people off, but it's really pretty simple.
Yeah, I should have just let myself like ride.
Just roll.
I should have trusted myself, just like you trusted yourself in developing Urban Decay. And I'm really excited to talk to you today. I know for a lot of the folks out there, they already know what Urban Decay is. I wasn't familiar with Urban
Well, there's no reason you should be.
Decay. I don't know.
It's okay.
Maybe. But as I was doing my research, I realized that you have been in the game for over 27 years.
Yes.
And that is a feat in and of itself. You have so many incredible partners. You can find Urban Decay, the brand, in so many well-known stores and cosmetic stores. I want to spend today talking about your journey. I want to talk about brand and your brand mission. I'd love to talk maybe a little bit about some of your partners, and then ultimately giving some advice to other brand marketers and marketers in general of how to do brand correctly.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
Well, first, before we get it, because we were just talking about Piggly Wiggly. So you currently live in Texas.
No, I currently live in California.
California.
I'm from Texas.
That's what it was. Yes.
Yes.
Can you give the folks a little intro on yourself, who you are, where have you been?
All right. Well, Wende, one of the founders of Urban Decay, and also a founder of a new brand called caliray. And I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. I actually was lucky enough to go to high school in Brussels, Belgium, believe it or not. Weird. But it was great. Kind of gave me a real insight in the world. And I felt like it was a good opportunity for me as a young person to start like studying people. And I think, as marketers, that's what we love to do is like get into people's minds and understand them, what makes them tick, what motivates them. So I feel like those early years of being like dumped into a completely different culture were really good for me and kind of opened my eyes beyond Texas and the United States and everything else. I came back to the US, went to college, and I got my first job out of college was at the Leo Burnett Company in Chicago. And that was a big ad agency. I worked on some big accounts. I'm old enough where I worked on a tobacco advertising account when I first started, very weirdly. And then I moved on to insurance, and then I got to go to Nintendo and Reebok. And that's really where I started to understand like popular culture and made myself an expert in popular culture. I moved out to California to work on a fast food account, and I ended up through friends meeting Sandy Lerner, who was the founder of Cisco Systems. Mm-hmm. And Sandy was like, let's start a makeup company. And I was like, I'm in. I had always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Sandy was one of these inspirational women. And I mean, we could do a whole podcast on women that inspire other women. But without her believing like, we can do this. Hey, I broke tech. Let's go break beauty. Like, I never had the background or the support to believe that that was something I can do. So I really think that she was one of those pioneer women that paid it forward. And I actually try to do that all the time now and mentor other young women. I'm actually mentoring a young woman from Georgia in the makeup business right now.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, really cool little brand called Glosshood. I'm just going to Sienna Brown. I'm just going to give her a little shout out.
Can you spell the name of the brand? Because I want to make sure that we...
Okay, it's called Glosshood, Glosshood.
Awesome. And we can find that online now.
I think you can find it online on her website now, and hopefully maybe at a retailer's online store soon. We will see.
Awesome. All right, Sierra, we're hyping you up.
Yeah.
Lots of folks are going to see this. But your story is absolutely incredible. And just some of the things that you were covering and that we were talking about before we started the podcast is the freedom that you have, the spontaneity and the love of spontaneity. Did you find that through your journey, a lot of it was either premeditated or, and I think I might know the answer to this question, you were just going with the flow?
In some ways I was going with the flow, but in a lot of ways I had really prepared myself. Like I put in a few years at an ad agency, being a junior AE and like grinding it out and learning the craft and understanding the discipline behind all of it. So I didn't just jump in and go, oh, I'm just going to like build a brand. Like I understood that there was a lot like that goes into it that everybody listening to this knows. So I wasn't one of those like just lucky, like, oh, she just threw it out there and it worked. Like there was some of that, like you take a chance and you throw it out there and you hope, but there was a lot of like thought behind it. And it was a moment in time, like it was the mid to late 90s. The culture was shifting, things were changing. Beauty was really stagnant. Yeah. And it was very much marketed to make you feel bad about yourself. And so it was all of these big companies. There were no indie brands when we started. There was no Sephora. If most people in this listening probably can't imagine a world without Sephora. and you went to the department store and you bought your prestige makeup at department stores. You could go to the drugstore, but the makeup there wasn't good at that time. Now it's pretty good. Yeah. But it was pretty much versions of pink, beige, and red. It was really boring. I always say it was like a thin, white, blonde, even featured woman. That was the model. And if you bought the product they were advertising, maybe possibly you could aspire to look more like her.
Oh, wow.
And I just felt like that's so wrong. Like we're all really beautiful. Like beauty should be about self-expression. And I was inspired by that when I was a junior in high school. And I was coming out of church with my family. And the priest, I told the story yesterday, the priest was like, "You're hiding behind your mask of makeup." And I was like, this isn't a mask. This is like storytelling. This is me showing you who I am. And so I had always viewed makeup as this like form of self-expression. Like I got sent home in 8th grade for wearing too much makeup. And in Fort Worth, Texas, that is really hard to do. So I've always had this passion for it as this means of like telling your story. And I felt like other people should feel that. And so that's really what Urban Decay was about. And people asked me about the name. And, we kept saying it was urban something. And someone just was like, call it Urban Decay. And it's catchy, but I was like, oh, is that really the right name for a makeup company? And then I started thinking about it and like, what was our mission? Our mission was to kind of break beauty and have a completely different point of view and give people these tools that were like super luxurious, awesome products, but not confined.
It's almost like counterculturalism.
It was totally counterculture at the time. Like the brand statement I wrote, like people cannot believe it, but I was like, the brand statement I wrote in 1996 says, Urban Decay is makeup for girls and boys who want to show the world who they are and put their own stamp on it. See, like men wearing makeup in the 90s was like out there.
I mean, except if you were like Prince,
a rock star, right?
Like Kiss, Gene Simmons, and those guys.
Yeah.
But that's so like you were already
or Nikki Sixx, who blessed my baby when I was pregnant, which is a whole nother story we can talk about another time. But weird. In the middle of Times Square.
I'm going to have you on like 4 or 5 podcasts.
Oh, I have stories.
I feel like
I have stories. Days. Yeah, days.
But I think what's also really interesting is when you touch on storytelling, and I think that crucial element in marketing, as we look at the landscape of marketing today, and as we talk to marketers, I think it's something that's fundamentally missing. Good storytelling that you're passionate about. We've shifted so far to the right with performance, driving sales, offering deals, measuring and tracking everything, that we've lost sight of what motivates us. So I'd love for you to talk about how Urban Decay and now caliray, how they are mission-driven brands, and what inspires you and what has inspired you.
Yeah, because I think performance is important.
Yes.
And we all have to tap into it to elevate our sales. But I do think at a brand's core, it's even beyond brand. It should be like, for me, brands are mission driven. So the mission for Urban Decay was to give people this form of self-expression, to give them something to tap into that wasn't all about that perfect model. It was about, you being beautiful. And the name Urban Decay, like if you think about, you go to New York, right? And there's this like crumbling brick wall or rusting fire escape. Like the cool thing about that is like it is falling apart. It may not be perfect, but it's really weirdly beautiful.
I dig it, yeah.
And it has a story to tell. And that is just like every single one of us. Like we may not fit that conventional mold, but we are all like awesomely beautiful.
Yeah.
And I said, Urban Decay was the brand for like weirdos and misfits, and we're all weirdos and misfits.
100%.
Who doesn't feel that way sometimes?
Literally everybody.
Right?
Yeah. Anyone that says like I fit in perfectly, it's like
Yeah.
you're delusional.
Yeah.
But please continue. Yes.
So we just felt like the brand was mission driven. We were all about empowering people to bring who they were to the party. And now if you tried to build a brand on that aspirational ideal, you'd be like, there's no takers.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like mission accomplished in many ways, and that any beauty brand that starts today is all about like, it's a tool for self-expression. Like that is everyone's mantra. And I feel good about that. Like, oh my gosh, we did it. And we paved the way for all of these indie beauty brands to be successful. And I think that is also really cool because the customer is more segmented. She should have more choices. It shouldn't be about like, oh, there's 3 or 4 brands out there. Sure. She should be able to like tap into this very specific thing that speaks to her. And beauty is a really weird space, right? In some ways, it's packaged goods. It's not unlike your Tide Pods, right?
Right.
They work, and so you buy it again.
That's right.
And they work, and you buy it again. But it's also more like art or fashion, in that you're putting it on your face. Mm-hmm. It is a tool of self-expression. You are like when you pull that lip gloss or that lipstick out of your bag, or you pull that powder out, and it's in public, or it sits on your vanity. Like there is an emotional connection to that. So like beauty's this weird space that combines the discipline of packaged goods and the like art of like these soulful experiences that you're having. So it's this really interesting space to be in.
I love that a lot. So I don't wear makeup, but I do have a skincare routine, and it's not something that I had done earlier on in my life. But as I'm getting older, I'm like, okay, I want to take care of my skin. But I find myself being drawn to brands and trying out different brands for skincare that are mission driven, that are sustainable, that are aligned with my core values. So like that very much is a part of like making a purchasing decision. Right.
Well, that's great that it is, because my new brand, caliray, the space I saw in beauty was we're doing all of this single use plastic. And I was actually out surfing in a pretty remote place with my family. And I decided to take a break. I paddle my board to the beach. I sit down, and it looks like this beautiful beach, but I look in towards the interior of this uninhabited island, and it is filled with plastic trash that is washed up. And I started thinking about how really like all of this plastic is a problem.
Yes.
And beauty is a big contributor. And I created this thing called the naked palette, which most women have in their makeup drawer.
Okay.
And I started thinking about like how many naked palettes are in these landfills.
What's a naked palette?
A naked palette's this 12-pan neutral eyeshadow palette.
Okay.
I always say like it made your makeup drawer. Like it was everyone's like go-to palette. Mm-hmm. And Urban Decay still sells them today. So it's just this very like user-friendly, like everyone loves it. Just throw it in your bag. You can create a bunch of different looks with it.
Okay. I think I've seen that in like my mom's purse.
Oh, your mom or your sister has one. You know someone that has one.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I just started thinking about all the stuff we were putting into landfills, and I really wanted to create a brand like with a new mission, and the mission is sustainability. And interestingly, in beauty, what I'm finding is like that mission is really important, just like it was with Urban, but ultimately you have to talk about the product first. So again, you're like down to performance versus brand, right? Like even within the brand itself, like above and beyond your marketing, inside the brand, you have to like balance performance and balance the mission.
That's incredible. How have you seen yourself evolve alongside, like as a person, evolve alongside your brands, starting all the way back in 97?
96.
96.
Yeah.
So make sure you have that year. 96 all the way to 20.
I was 12 when I started, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's right. I've evolved a lot. Right. I mean, I felt like I was the mentee, and now I'm the mentor in many ways in this sort of bigger picture. In some ways, things haven't changed. I'm still like hauling boxes into the office. When the boxes arrive, like
I dig that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's still grunt work to be done when you're an entrepreneur. Like there was an evolution for a while with Urban once we got it to a size, right? I was in very much founder mode, and I was traveling a lot. I had to be a lot of places, and I love getting granular with the product. Like to me, the product is everything, and how people are going to experience it. And I want to have my hands in it and touch it and like be really the driving force behind creating it. So in order to do that, I kind of had to step out of that founder role and get back into like entrepreneur role. So that's part of why I wanted to start caliray as well, above and beyond the sustainability mission. Was I just personally love to get my hands dirty.
Yeah. I love that. And that's actually a sentiment that should be reflected across other marketers, specifically brand marketers that are aligning themselves with performance. Like when you're thinking about your brand, you have to shift your mindset back to an entrepreneurial spirit in order to innovate and in order to like kind of have your pulse on the zeitgeist of culture to be like, okay, am I like a fuddy-duddy dead brand, or like am I keeping up with the times?
Right.
And the fact that you're like going to the office and lifting up some boxes, because like I've seen your guns, like you.
Oh,
yeah,
thanks.
You're yoked in a good way.
Oh, thank you.
But I love that, and I think like, what would you say to marketers that are that feel lost in storytelling, in reclaiming that entrepreneurial spirit? What should they do to rediscover that?
Yeah, it's. I think sometimes it's hard when you have a nice budget. Sometimes it's easy to just go, oh, well, I'm going to throw money at that and throw money at that and throw money at that and throw money at that. And I felt like, yesterday I was on a panel with Jason from Tushy.
Right.
And I really loved listening to some of the really innovative things they were doing. Their like ButtCon exhibit, their funeral for a tree. Like I was super inspired by him talking about these really innovative ways they created noise and attention without a lot of budget.
Right.
And we tried to do the same thing. Like we partnered with a swimsuit company and sponsored a bunch of ex-D1 volleyball players to play in the Manhattan Beach 6-man and created a lot of content around that.
Right.
And so I think there's things you can do. And I think you have to pretend you don't have any money sometimes and go, okay, if I didn't have any money, what would I do? And I think it helps you get out of the box, right? Because it's really easy to just go, well, here's my meta budget and here's this and here's that. And I'm not saying don't spend that money. I'm saying just pretend you don't have any of that. Like, what would you do? And I think it might help marketers think outside the box a little bit.
I love that.
I also don't know that much about AI, and I do think there's some like crazy weird opportunities there, but I haven't figured it out yet. So
we're gonna figure out if you and I will stick close, and then I'll like as I'm learning, I'll send you information.
Send me info, please.
Because we're using AI today. Even my content team, we're using tools like Jasper AI and content creation and ad creative tools to help produce. It's mainly based around efficiency. But it really starts with storytelling, understanding your brand in order to create like derivative content and creative elements that expand your brand. But you should never use it as a tool to like define your brand, because then you'll get like garbage.
You'll get a machine-made brand.
Yeah, exactly right. And nobody.
And you won't need a brand with soul and purpose.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And then I also love the like your point around having a deliberate scarcity mindset as a barometer for how you should be spending money or innovating. Like for instance, like our podcast setup, but we actually had a limited budget even with the set that we designed before we had a larger budget, and we were going to like go all out and do all these things, but then like budget was cut a little bit, and then we really had to get creative and think of like what's a clean, sleek, unique way that we can tell our brand story and make this space look cool for the conference and for podcasts. And we ended up coming up with something like absolutely spectacular.
And maybe it was probably better than what you originally envisioned.
Yeah, I think so. We were trying to do way too much. But so you mentioned also, I'll start here. Urban Decay is, from what I'm researching and from the conversations that we're having, it's a part of culture, of mainstream culture. And a part of mainstream culture is the partnerships that you establish and the industries and the folks and the influencers that you pull into your vision and your mission as that train is moving further and closer and closer and closer to that ever growing mission. Can you talk a little bit about some of your brand partners and some of the influencers? We can take both of those separately.
Yeah. So in terms of partnerships, like I actually often give a talk on how partnership is so important when you're a brand. There's a lot of great D2C brands. I get that. But for me, I work with retailers, and my partner right now with caliray is Sephora. And what's so great about that is they really are awesome marketers, and they understand the balance of performance and brand. And so we're not on sale all the time. They're not always discounting in the store. There's like specific moments that are planned that people anticipate. We can anticipate as a brand to amplify them. And then we can anticipate when we might get spikes and we might have slight lows. And so that partnership and that back and forth and the sharing of information so that we can amplify each other is so important. Like they give us a heads up, hey, we're going to be talking a lot about I. And so, we can plan to be talking about that same thing so that so that we're all building on each other. And the same thing with influencer. They have an influencer team that we can tap into. We bring our own influencers. We drive to Sephora. So the partnership there has just been really crucial in building both my brands, both Urban Decay and caliray.
That's phenomenal. And what I also like to just delve even deeper into, not only the partnerships that you have with Sephora and businesses, but also your ambassadors, like the individuals that you kind of leverage to spread the word about your brands.
Yeah, so it was really different with Urban Decay and with caliray, because with Urban Decay we had some bigger budgets. And so, my first partnership, big celebrity partnership, was with Gwen Stefani. That was really exciting for me because I was a Gwen fan. Kind of started together. Her band was coming up when we were starting Urban Decay. So it was a real thrill for me to work with her on that project. And we still, text each other to this day. Like, she's just a lovely person, and she has a brand now too, which is really cool.
Please tell her I said what's up.
I will.
I love Gwen Stefani.
I will tell her you said what's up. And then we had Ruby Rose for a while. I think one of the coolest things we did as a brand, and she actually acknowledged it on stage. She came and did a private show for us for a launch, our Naked Honey palette. And it was Lizzo. And she stood on that stage and she said, no other brand would have hired someone that looks like me to be a spokesperson for a makeup company. And that was like 6 years ago. And now it's like totally normal.
Yeah, right.
So it's like we're really like changing the culture and how people perceive beauty, like from the beginning. So, I mean, I know there's controversy with her now, but I think it was really the right thing to be doing.
Yeah.
And so, with caliray, we choose brand ambassadors that are across all spectrums of types of influencers. Some are that clean girl look. Some are a little more like down and dirty. Some are no makeup girls. Some are sustainability people. So we just try to get just a big variety of points of view. And that's really how we do our influencer selection.
I love that. And what's so unique about what you're doing, and you're doing so well, is that although it kind of like runs the gamut of like all of the types and the personas that are attracted to your brand, you still find a way to be authentic to Urban Decay and to caliray. How do you do that? Because that's tough. Because like you can serve everyone, but you can't. But you are.
You can't. But we showed a video yesterday at the talk, and it was an influencer, and they were really different than you would imagine the caliray, like laid back, California dream kind of influencer. But their video was like one of our top performing videos, you know? And so you just can't tell what's going to drive people. I think what it comes down to, though, Vern, is the product. Yeah. Is the product a great product? And if you're selling a great product, then lots of different kinds of people can tap into it. And don't pigeonhole yourself. You do have to, there are so many sliced and diced segments now, but I think that there's room for brands to appeal across segments. And it's just about tapping into those different subcultures.
I think that. Like at Wonderkent, we're big into, and the name of the podcast is Individuality Unleashed. So we're big into inclusivity, to unleashing and showcasing individuality. What are some things that inspire your individuality? How would you describe your individualism?
Well, I've always been about that. Like, I never wanted to fit the mold. I mean, we can go back to church again. Like, I wanted to be like the girl up on stage, like helping out. And they were like, no, you're a girl. Girls don't do that. And so I feel like that was a moment when I was like, what? And so I'm older than you. Like, there were more restrictions on girls back in the 80s when I was growing up. But I feel like that was the start of my like individuality journey. Like I always liked to dress a little different. And when black nail polish came out, that I was like the first girl in line to get it. Like I was always into really kind of weird, different things. And so I've just always been on that individuality journey. And I think it's flowed through my brands as well.
I dig that. I remember in school, I'm 6'7", so I already stand out already.
Yeah.
You
stand out.
I stand out already, but I was totally into that. I remember buying a pair of turtle shell glasses when I was like, no one was wearing those, and I got teased for them. Like, I don't know, like who would want to tease me, but they did. I'm like, I don't care. Like I dig these a lot. And then like 2 or 3 years later, everyone wearing turtle shell glasses.
I'm with you. I'm 5'11", so I'm not 6'7", but I'm tall for a lady person. And you know, I and my last name starts with a Z, and I'm like, I was always like weird.
And Wendy with an E.
Yeah,
stand out.
So
why blend in? Why do that?
No,
I don't subscribe to that.
No,
like let's stick out like sore thumbs.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, before we wrap up, what's really important to get across to our audiences, for me at least today, is to really help them to understand the importance of not resting on their laurels, refocusing your energy around understanding your brand, effectively communicating your brand, infusing that into your performance marketing as opposed to performance marketing first.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love that you said no resting on your laurels. It was like a big mantra for me at Urban, because what I had observed was brands come and go. And the brands that don't evolve don't stay around. And so my whole thing was, hey, if we want to be a brand long-term for the ages, we have to continually evolve. And in order to continually evolve, you can't just like reinvent. You have to have a really clear definition of who you are. And I know it's been said a bazillion times, but that brand DNA, those key pillars that your brand stands for. And then you have to like modernize those and continually don't rest on your laurels about those, but like, hey, what does that look like right now? What is that going to look like 3 years from now? And so you evolve the brand, but the core of the brand is solid and strong. It's like who you are as a person is solid and strong, but like, hey, tortoiseshell glasses, you're into them, you're out of them, right? You're moving on, but it's still you. And so I think that it's really important to be looking at your brand that way, in addition to doing your performance marketing. Because number one, your performance marketing needs to evolve too. What were you calling it? Brand formance?
Yeah.
And your brand needs to stay relevant. And if you are just doing performance marketing, how's your brand going to stay relevant? If your brand doesn't know, if you don't know, and your brand doesn't know who it is at its like deepest core, and then you're continually like moving the brand forward, and then that performance can like follow the brand. Absolutely. And what it looks like.
Yeah, I dig that. I think that's great. Well, Wendy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on.
Well, I'm so glad we just did it spontaneous.
Yeah. We just met yesterday. And then like I went down the rabbit hole. Like I got on the internet last night after we met, and then I'm like, oh my God.
There's some pictures of me from the 90s that are special.
They're wonderful. But then not only those pictures, but also just your career and what you've achieved, like completely blown away. And now I'm a huge fan, and I wish I had known you earlier, because now.
Well, you got a primer in your room.
I did?
You got a primer.
How do I use a primer? What is that?
So it's so this primer, it's called So Blown, and you put it on, it like blows out all your pores, any fine lines. But the good thing about this one is it's hydrating. It's got collagen peptides. So you being a skincare guy, you can just pop it on. You'll look a little more blurred out, a little more finished. Like when you get up on stage today, like you just be a little more like pulled together.
Okay.
So it's almost like clear makeup, but it's not makeup because it's good for your skin.
I dig it.
And it smells like a vacation.
I dig
when you
that.
put it on.
Thank you very much for the gift.
Well, I hope you love it.
And I'm going to message you, and I'm going to send you how do I look?
You know what? I even tell women love it. They usually wear it under and then put a little like skin tint or makeup on top.
Yeah.
But I give it to my husband and my boys, and you know who loves it is men who don't have hair on the top of their head. Like takes that like smooths everything out, takes the shine down. It's good for everywhere.
Do you market it that way?
No.
You should.
I know. It's kind of fun. I love like beauty. There's like the main marketing messaging and what the product's for, and then there's like the hacks.
Yeah.
Because it's so big on social media. Like you can make a whole career of like, we're going to launch this product and this was it is. And then you basically like then sideline all the hacks of what to do with it. I also use it as an eyeliner corrector. So I'll put a little on a brush, and if my like winged liner isn't straight, I can just like use that and it cleans up the winged liner really beautifully.
I love it.
So lots of hacks with the So Blown primer.
You're inspiring me because like that sounds like a whole campaign in and of itself. Like you taking your product and like creating like a chart of all the hacks that you could.
Hacks. People love a good hack.
Oh, I dig that. See, now I don't, like I said, I don't wear makeup, but now I'm curious to see like all the unique ways.
Well, just you wearing it as a man who doesn't wear makeup is a hack in many ways.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like, like you have lovely skin. You clearly do take care of it, but you're going to put a little on. You just need the tiniest amount and start from your nose out. And you're going to be like, oh my God, look how good this looks.
I can't even begin to tell you how giddy I am that I'm getting a personal consultation from Wende Zomnir.
I know. I usually end up going places and I'll talk about like marketing and branding or like big picture stuff. And then people in the room are like, yeah, but can you tell me how to like get your eyeliner like that, or how do I put on mascara? I always end up giving a makeup lesson as well.
I think that's great. One of your many multiple talents. Wende, again, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Vern.
Absolutely. I hope to have you again soon.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Absolutely. And again, folks, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. We'll see you again on another episode of Individuality Unleashed.